breaking down Liberty sports. This is the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back into the High School Fan Zone on this Wednesday night. First January shows of the year after a couple weeks of hiatus. For the Patriot Fan Zone, I have Parker Hicks, the boys basketball coach, and Pierce Fioroni. Hopefully I said that a lot easier or better than the poor PA guy at Friendship the other day. Yeah. He really struggled with that Italian name.
Yeah, he did.
Yours and Shakur Wilbon was on last night. He struggled with Shakur's as well. And I know Paul Page well enough to know that Paul's skin was just because Paul likes everything done correctly. And I don't mean to throw this to dude under the bus. Names are names. Sometimes they're a little tricky. So, Pierce, I'm glad I can say your name right. But I think I've told you before, being part Italian, I'm very sensitive to saying names right. So.
Yeah, it's hard last name.
It's not that hard. I just tell people just look at the vowels and say them. It's really pretty easy. You guys are 18-3. Somebody who asked me that before was a guy who fills in for me once in a while, Clint Scott, who, Parker, I think you may have met a couple weeks ago when I was out. He said, how's Parker's team doing? I said, they're 18-3, and he stopped and looked at me for a second. I said, yeah, they're good. He said, oh, wow, I didn't know they – I think you guys have turned some heads, and we've talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure that – I think people knew you'd be older, improve, but are you a little bit surprised by what your guys have done, or is this what you expected from them?
I think it's a little bit of both. You know, we've always had high expectations, so that part really doesn't shock me at all, but just really how we've seen players grow in a year is what's been really surprising but really uncontrollable. You know, just the athleticism and the speed and everything, it doesn't seem to be a factor anymore, and that's just part of playing a lot of games and having a lot of experience. So, you know, like I said, expectations have always been high, so not shocked we're 18-3. But at the same time, we're always chasing perfection and wish we could be 21-0, but, you know, one game at a time.
I'm going to ask you the same thing, Pierce. You're a sophomore, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think I've called you a junior a time or two. I'm trying to age you a little bit. You guys brought everybody back, obviously, but a different composition this year. When you came into this year, were you pretty confident you guys could have this kind of season so far?
Yes, sir. We had, before trials happened, we kind of already had an idea of who our team was, and then Coach sent us our schedule, and we thought like we really had a good chance to have a super good record. I was surprised that we'd have this much wins. We've already broke our last season record, and we're just keep pushing. And but yeah, I thought we would do this because when he sent us our schedule, we were all like, "Oh, we got this." So
it's not been coaches challenged you guys. The last guy I covered your last game. No, I covered your next to last game.
Gordon.
Against Gordon. You guys tested Coach a little bit in that one. Put him through a little bit of a ringer early. Maybe he put you through a ringer. I'm not sure. But Parker, when we talked on the phone after that game, those are the kind of wins that you won. There was 3 games that day that always confused me a little bit. Yours was 52-47.
52-47.
You guys were down by 12 at halftime. Weren't shooting well. Gordon couldn't miss. You found a way in that third quarter to kind of turn things around, and you won with some in-game stuff. Those are the kind of wins that coaches probably stress the most during, but appreciate the most afterwards.
Yeah, that was, that's why they give us 5 timeouts. I burned, I think, 2 or 3 there in the second quarter. But kind of what your first question compared to last year, and, last year down 12, we'd fight, and who knows, but the message after the game was it's reassuring. You can look at it, you're down 12 and you found a way to win. You can go back to our third place game against Estacado, we're down 8. Instead of getting it to 4, it gets to 15, And then you can go back to our Coronado game when we're up, I think 8 or 9 at halftime, get it to 15, but then they let it get back all the way to even. And so there's a lot of lessons learned from it, but hopefully the biggest thing they got from it was just a confidence thing that we can get down 12, 15, and then still find a way to win. Kind of like you said, they had almost a perfect second quarter, and we just kind of weathered the storm and waited for our shots to go in, and they finally did in the third quarter. And then I just thought our defensive intensity picked up that second half, and we were able to string stops together.
We're coming up on a break here, but I want you to think about this, Pierce, for when we come back. I've always wondered if high school guys know when you're down, or if you are paying that much attention to the scoreboard, or you're letting the coaches kind of steer you through that, because you guys, I don't want to say you're carefree, because you guys are pretty intense out there, but you didn't look bothered by being down 12, and I mean that in a good way. The way you came out in the third quarter, you kind of were very calm about it. So I want you to think about that for when we come back.
Sure.
Patriots start District 5 4A play Friday at home against Levelland, and then play Estacado at home next Tuesday. So they jump right into district play pretty quickly here. We'll be back to talk more about Patriot basketball on the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7.
Breaking down Liberty sports. This is the Patriot Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I'm Randy Rosetta. I'm with Liberty coach Parker Hicks and sophomore Pierce. I screwed up your first name now. Pierce Fioroni. I posed a question to you before we went to break, Pierce. When you're 15, 16 years old, you guys are behind 8 or 12 points at halftime. You guys were actually behind by 16, if I remember right. Are you thinking about that? Do you know what the score is, or are you just playing those 32 minutes and figuring it out as you go?
I think we were just playing. I knew that we were playing bad. Like, stuff wasn't falling. They could not miss a shot. And I knew that when it was halftime and the coaches started talking to us that we were going to get it together, we were all talking to each other anyways. And once we just started getting shots to fall and then they went into a man, it was come back, because we just really needed one to start to get going, and that's what happened. So.
Well, and I just asked you before we came back on who you thought your best shooter was.
Yeah, Funk started shooting.
He's the one who hit a shot, and that was like that lit the fuse for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Coach about this on the phone. He's watching him from year one to year two. I mean, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger, he's gotten better at what he does, but he also has a little bit more leadership, and you're one of the guys that brings leadership. When you see one of your guys that's kind of that blue-collar guy like he is, get you guys going, how much does that kind of spread among the whole team?
Yeah, it spreads a lot, because we have captains, and Funk's a captain, and a bunch of people look to him to do the right thing. And I feel like with him and me and Tukey, I feel like if one of us is going, I feel like our whole team can start going. It's kind of just like a spark and just spreads throughout the whole team. And if you watch, when he hit 3, our bench is going crazy, and then Tukey hits 1 and going crazy. It's just like a spark. It's just everyone's going, and then we start.
I'm glad you brought up Tukey, because he had a rough 3 quarters, shooting-wise, not necessarily defensively, but that's the kind of, Parker, that's a sign of maturity, because he didn't let that bug him. He hit at least 2 big shots in the fourth quarter to get you guys going, and then him and Funk went to the free throw line and sealed it for you. So Tukey's got that gene in him too.
Yeah, he's got the shooter's mentality. You know, and a shooter, if they miss 2 or 3 in a row, they're thinking they're going to make the next one. Just kind of a percentage game. And like Pierce said, we have tons of guys that can do that. And he's talking about providing a spark. We're trying to find somebody who's going to provide a spark every game. You know, who's going to get us going. And it's been different things, different games. Saturday it was knocking down a 3 and finally seeing the offense go. Monday against Andrews, it was guarding in the full court and containing and then getting turnover. And so, you know, we're trying to find sparks in different ways. And so, like he was saying, we really rely on some of those guys to set the example and the tone for everybody else.
You had a 6'6" freshman that was pretty good lighting the fuse the other day as well, Coleman Hendricks, who kind of picks his spots. When we talked during the summer, he had a little swagger when we spoke, but he's done a good job, I think, of kind of picking where he needs to do things, and I thought he was pretty big in that third quarter against Gordon.
Yeah, he's a competitor, which we have 10 guys who hate losing, and so it's just the domino effect. Once you see one go, and here come the rest of us. And that was kind of going back to a couple minutes ago. It was in the time I wasn't happy, but looking back at it and watching the film over again, just seeing our composure and how we handled their runs and all that stuff, and we're able to find a way to win when we feel we didn't play our best is always reassuring, and an ugly win is better than a pretty loss.
Yes.
So we were just happy to find a way to win.
I think you played for a couple coaches that would agree with that at the college level.
Right.
Pierce, I mentioned it before the break that you guys get into district play. You guys went through district last year in a district that had shallow water and it had children, a lot of tradition-rich programs. I think it's fair to say that you guys stepping up to 4A, it's going to be even more challenging. You start with Levelland Friday, then you follow that up with Estacado, who you've already seen. How much more prepared are you guys for this part of the season where everything's a little bit more important each night?
We focus on the little things a lot in practice, just like the right pass, the diving on the floor and stuff. And I also feel like starting off our season, like 18-3, is a whole different way than how we started our district last year. We all kind of already hanging our heads on, like, we have a losing record, but this year we have a winning record. We have a much better team, I think, and we do the little things right a lot. So I feel like our district will be way better this year.
You guys, as I mentioned, you don't wade into the shallow end because Levelland, they know your coach a little bit. A few of those guys know Coach Parker a little bit, and then Estacado is Estacado. I don't know. You guys have already seen them. I think they're ranked number 7 in the state, and for good reason. That gets started Friday night at 7:30 at Liberty when Levelland comes to town. We'll be back next week with the High School Fan Zone on Monday. This is Randy Rosetta, and this is 100.7 The Score.